Welcome to this Selenium WebDriver tutorial on how to handle dropdown in Selenium WebDriver. A dropdown is a web element that you can use to select a text. Dropdowns are used in forms to get user input. Now a Selenium dropdown can be single select, meaning that you can select exactly one text from it. Or a dropdown in Selenium can be multi-select, meaning that you can select one text or multiple text from it. Let us now see dropdown examples. In Google you can search my blog software testing space, and there is a link for web page for testing. Click on it. I've created a web page for testing Selenium, etc. So here this is an example of a single select dropdown. So click on this arrow and you can select any of these values. And this is an example of a multi-select dropdown. So here we can select gray, and pressing the control key, maroon, and like that we can select multiple text from it. How to handle dropdown in Selenium? Whether it is a single select dropdown or multi-select dropdown in Selenium WebDriver, we have to use the select class in Selenium. So first we find the dropdown web element, then create a select object from it to handle the dropdown. Single select dropdowns are simpler to handle, so we can give the dropdown dot get options method. It returns a list of all the options. Then dropdown dot select by index method selects an option in the dropdown with the index. Note that the indexes start from 0, so the very first text is going to have the index as 0. Dropdown dot select by value method selects an option with that particular value if you know that value internally. Then dropdown dot select by visible text method is most useful. It selects the option with the text that you see as a user. Once an option is selected using Selenium with Java, dropdown dot get first selected option method can give the text of that option. In this Selenium WebDriver tutorial, I will now show how to handle select dropdown Selenium Java using MaxTAF, the free Selenium framework. So I have created a free account in MaxTAF and I can log in here. And in the previous tutorial I created a project and I want to create a test case. So click on cases and click on the create button. So here I can give the name of my test case. Let me call it dropdown 1, and I will choose the template as Selenium Hello World, so it fills up the sample code. Now once the case is created with Selenium Java, I can go down to the test method and here I can modify this code. So I don't want this comment. Then in driver.get I can put the link that I just showed you, paste it here. Then instead of all these statements, let me type my own code. Now I need to find out that dropdown. So first I have to give web element, and to find out that web element on the web page, I'm going to call it single select dropdown is equal to driver dot find element and use by dot. Now I need to right click on it, find that element in the DOM, and here I can see that the ID is my underscore number. So copy this from here and here I can use by.id and give the ID that I just copied. Now once I have the web element, I can use the select class as a wrapper, and that will give me access to all the methods of the dropdown. Select d is equal to, I have to create a new select object and give that web element, Singleselect dropdown. Now it is possible that we need to find out what are the different options in the dropdown. So we can easily get a list of all the options. For that I can use a for each loop in Java. After for, we have to give web element opt in d dot get options. So dropdown dot get options will give all the options, and I'm going to have a single statement in this for each loop. So I can just print it out, system.out.println and opt.get attribute, and the name of the attribute that I want is value. Now what is going to happen is that d.getOptions is going to return all the options. opt variable is going to take those values one by one, and it will print out the value attribute from those options. I want to run it, so I've used select class, so I have to write the import statement also for that. So the import statements are at the top. So here I can paste the import statement for select and click on the save button. And now I want to compile it to see if there are any errors or not. The case is compiled, and now I can run it. Click on the run button. So here in MaxTAF, the console output should show values of all the options. So I can scroll down, and here in the console output, so I can see all the values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 until 10, and these are the values that you can see internally. So this drop down has value 1, and then ONE space first is given as the text of that. Next, let me show you the select by index method. So close this, and I don't need this for loop anymore, so I can comment it out. So this is very simple, d dot select by index, and let me select the index 5, and here I want to see whether it has actually selected the index 5. The indexes start from 0, so I can give mx service dot add logline, which is built into MaxTAF. The selected option is dropdown dot get first selected option dot get text. The get text method is going to actually give the text of that. So save it, compile it, and run it. MaxTAF has started the test case, and I can look in the log, or I can look in the video also, whether it has selected the option with the index 5 or not. Let me look at the log first. So the selected option is 5. Let me confirm that using the video. So here we can see that it has selected the option 5. Close this. Now I've shown select by index. So let us try out select by value. So I'm going to comment it out. I'm going to use select by value. So dropdown dot select by value, and note the value we have to give as a string only, even if it is an integer as in the web page. So I can give some other value and save it and run it. So this time my expectation is that the internal value 1 will be used to select that text in the drop down. It has started the test case, and we can see in the log the selected option is 1 space first. Select by visible text is the most useful method. So let me show that. Close this and comment this out. So I'm going to create a string variable and call it number to select and give it an initial value 8 for instance, and then give dropdown dot select by visible text, and I can use that variable, so its value will be used number to select. And then the web page also has a submit button. So let me show that to you. Now here, if we click on this submit button, it shows the result message. So I can get the locator for this. Right click on it and click on inspect. Now this button has no clear ID or name or class. So what I can do is I can right click on it and I can copy the CSS selector. Now, so first I have to create the web element. Web element submit button is equal to driver dot find element by dot CSS selector, and the CSS selector is what I just copied. It's a big CSS selector. In the next example I'll show a Selenium 4 technique, and that is a easier way to find the submit button like this. Then next, submit button dot click. This add log line I can give after select by visible text, and here I need to find out the result. Now result is shown here, so I can see this, and here the ID is result. Double click on it and copy it. So after submit button dot click, I can add some log mx service dot add log line, and I can find that result element directly. Driver dot find element by ID, and the ID was result. Dot get text. Get text method will give the text in that result. Now I've selected the drop down, I've clicked on the submit button. Now I want to put an assertion. Now my assertion is going to be whether the selected option and what I've given in the number to select is the same or not. So I can use JUnit assert dot assert equals, and my first value is dropdown dot get first selected option dot get text. Get text is a method, and I want to compare it with number to select, and end every statement with a semicolon. Now let me save it and compile it. Now case is compiled and the test case is now complete. Click on the run button. It has started the test case, and my expectation is that from the single select drop down, the option with the text 8 should be selected, and it is going to compare that with this variable number to select. Now test case is passed, and we can look in the log. The selected option is 8, and this is the result. We didn't give any name. The number selected is 8. Now MaxTAF Selenium framework using Java has a share link, so you can see it here. You can share your work and collaborate with other MaxTAF users also. They can see your code and run your test. So let me click on share, and there are a couple of options: share example for viewing or share example for editing. So I can share it for viewing, and this is a complete link. I can copy this link and close this. Now I can open a private window where I am not logged into MaxTAF and paste this link here. So it will log in me as guest and show this completed test case. So I can see the code here, the same code, and I can even run it. So MaxTAF has this useful feature of sharing the link. So you can write some sample code and share it with your friends, or you can even collaborate with your colleagues and use it that way. Next, in the Selenium tutorial, let us learn Selenium Multiselect Dropdown. You can identify a multi-select dropdown because the select tag contains a multiple attribute. Let me show you. Now here on this web page, let me select the multi-select dropdown. So I can right click on it and click on inspect, and here you see in the select tag multiple attribute is given. In Selenium WebDriver with Java code, dropdown dot is multiple method returns true if it is a multi-select dropdown. So you should use this first. And like in the single select dropdown, select by index method selects an option with that index, and again the indexes start from 0. But the difference is, since it is a multi-select, you can call select by index method many times with different indexes to select multiple options. Select by value method is similar but uses values instead of indexes, and select by visible text uses text to select the different options. Dropdown.get options returns all the options, and dropdown.get first selected option returns a first selected option only. So out of the colors, the very first color that you selected, that will be returned by get first selected option. And get all selected options returns all the selected options. This is obvious. Now opposite of select by index, select by value and select by visible text, we have the dropdown dot deselect methods. So dropdown dot deselect by index basically deselects a particular option using the index, and similarly deselect by value deselects an option with the value, and deselect by visible text deselects a selected option with the text. There is also a deselect all method that deselects all the selected options. Now in this Selenium training, let me show you how to handle multi-select dropdown. So I'm going to create a new case here and call it dropdown 2 and choose the template as Selenium hello world only, and click on the create button. Now click on the script tab, and here in test method I can let driver.manage.window.maximize be there, and here in driver.get put the URL and remove all of this sample code and start typing the code. So first I need to find that web element for the multi-select dropdown. So I have to write web element, and I'm going to call it MSD for multi-select dropdown is equal to driver dot find element, and here this is the ID of this multi-select dropdown is my underscore colors. So I can copy this. Web element MSD is equal to driver dot find element by dot ID, and the ID is my underscore colors that I just copied. Next I have to use the select class. So for that first I need to add the import statement. So here I can put the import statement, import org dot openqa dot selenium dot support dot ui dot select. Now I can use a select class. Select D is equal to, create a new object and give it the web element multi-select dropdown. Now I showed you the is multiple method, so I can use that in an if statement. If is followed by a condition in parentheses. If dropdown dot is multiple, then I just want to print it's a multi-select dropdown. The system dot out dot println, and it's a multi-select dropdown, and end it with a semicolon. Now because I just have a single statement in the if block, I need not use curly braces here. I can directly type else, and if it is not is multiple, then system.out.println it's not a multi-select drop down. Now let me save it and run it. So it will find out whether it's a multi-select drop down or not. Click on the run button. The output of system.out.println is in the console output. So here I can see, yes, it is a multi-select drop down. That is because of the multiple tag there. So here we can see that there is a multiple attribute. Now next, I can select different text in it. So I can use select by visible text method. So my drop down dot select by visible text, and I want to select none because that is one of the options, just for example. Then I want to select maybe another color, black, and I want to select gray. Now just as we have select by visible text, we also have deselect by visible text. So I can give drop down dot deselect by visible text, and this is, I want to deselect none. Now I have to write the code to find the submit button. So in Selenium 4 there is a new thing called relative locator. So in order to use relative locator, you have to write the import statement. So it is import org dot openqa dot selenium dot support dot locators dot relative locator. Now relative locator is basically when we don't have a clear locator for a web element, so we can use the locator of any other web element, whether the other web element is above, below, to left of, to right of, and near. So what I'm going to do is, now this submit button is below this name. So now name has a clear ID, my underscore name. So I'm going to use this input box, and submit button is right below that. Now this is going to be implemented in 2 lines. So first I have to find the locator, which is of type by. So I'm going to call my variable as submit locator. Submit locator is equal to relative locator dot with, and I'm going to find it from by tag name, and this is a submit button, so the tag name is button, and this is below another web element whose ID is my underscore name. Now we have the submit locator available. So now find the submit button in this Selenium tutorial for beginners. So I can type web element submit button is the variable name is equal to driver dot find element And here we don't have to give by dot anything, we just have to give the locator in the previous line, and the locator in the previous line is submit locator. Now this should find the submit button. Now the next thing we need to do is click on the submit button. The submit button dot click method. Now next, find the result in this Selenium Java tutorial. So for that I can find the result and put it in a string called result message. The result message is equal to driver dot find element, and the result is here. So this is the result. So here the ID is result only. The driver dot find element by dot ID, and the ID is result dot get text. Now once I have found the result and stored it in the result message string variable, I can log it. So mx service dot add log line, and I can put result message there just for logging purpose. And now the important part is writing the assertion. Now if I have selected black and gray, the result message should also contain black and gray. So that is what I have to check before putting the assertion. So I can write the if statement. So if result message dot index of black is greater than or equal to 0, that means the string black is in the result message string. Ampersand is for Java and operator, and result message dot index of, and gray should also be there. This also has to be greater than or equal to 0. From the 0 is the first position in the string, and it can be after that also. So if the result message contains black and it contains gray, then the test is going to pass. So I can write assert dot assert equals true and true, else assert dot assert equals true comma false. Now after the assertion I can also get all the selected options, and that I can print not in the log but in the console output. So again, similar to what I showed in the Singleselect dropdown. In Singleselect dropdown I showed all the options, but here we can get the selected options. The for, this is a for each loop. So for web element opt in dropdown dot get all selected options. I can just have one statement, so I need not put curly braces here. The system dot out dot println, and what I want to print, the option dot get attribute, and the name of the attribute is text. Now the code is complete. Let me save it and compile it. Now case is compiled. Now Selenium testing. So I'm going to run it now. Click on the run button. MaxTAF has started running the case, and we can see live video while the test is going on. And let us see the log first. So the log says we did not put any name. The selected number is none. Okay, that was for the single select drop down, and the selected colors in the multi-select drop down are black and gray. So this looks okay, and console output says it's a multi-select drop down and it has printed black and gray. Now let us look at the video also. So here in the video we can see that it has selected black. Gray is not visible, it has to be scrolled down, but the result says the selected colors are black and gray. So I hope that you were able to learn how to handle dropdown in Selenium. Please view all of my Selenium videos. Also please like and share these Selenium tutorials. Thank you.